Another week, another coffee break. We're back, baby.
Oh,
Fresh
we're
out of
back.
Tim Williams.
Fresh out of Tim Williams. That sounds
Wow.
weird.
Hey, that was 90 minutes of some good hard coffee chat.
Oh, and it could have gone longer. Now, question, we had the timer rolling there for the 90 minutes. Did that include the break when we got the AeroPress stuff
Paused
ready?
it.
Oh, so it was a full 90 minutes.
full.
And I had to pull back. I wanted to ask so much more. So, there's at least 5 more pods left in that bloke.
Yeah, and when he left, he smoke bombed with the old, there needs to be some hard discussions. And you're just like, oh, can't wait for this.
Yes. There
People
needs to be
need some
hard
truths.
in the coffee industry.
Yeah, ooh, truths.
Okay, well, now that he's gone, because the whole point of coffee break is so that we can get them out of here.
And
then
sling mud.
And just sling mud and just burn every bridge that we've got. No, well, give us the lowdown. You worked with him beforehand. We touched on that in the pod.
Yeah,
What's the real story about working with him, 20 years ago?
Yeah, 20 years ago, he did openly admit that he does not remember that much of it. And, I think he would average anywhere up to 8 espressos a day.
8?
It was an absolute monster. And he worked hard, though. That guy was the guy that owned Climpson and Sons at the time, Ian, did not know what he was getting when Tim took over that business. And Tim turned that particular business into an absolute juggernaut, where it is now today one of the preeminent coffee roasters of the UK. And we went there recently when we were back in London. We got to check it out. Tim also applied himself to absolutely everything to the next level, yeah? So he was wanted to change the menu at the cafe. So what did he do? Went and staged at restaurants to upskill along the way. He was just one of those guys that took his own journey and his own narrative in his own hands and made it what he needed to. And I think that's quite obvious, and it's evidenced by what he's doing. He's obviously now a semi-journalist. He's also an amazing events organizer. I remember one time when he came out for an event here in Melbourne, and one of the number one things that he opened up the whole segment with was big giant symposium. And he's just it's 2020. It's he goes, it's 2014. If you can't keep track of your inventory, you don't know shit. You've got software available to you. And it was just he went down that path. So good on him.
Speak your truths.
Yeah.
Get them out. That was great. And you can feel it when I'm in the pod and I'm kind of losing track of time and just having a great chat. You're well, I know it's good for me. I don't know about the listeners, but I think they're going to enjoy that one as well.
Yeah, you're not staring down, looking at the questions going, can't wait to knock that one off.
Yeah.
You're wow, I just want to hear more about this segment we're still on.
Now, we had one of our film guys in the studio earlier, and he was like, I've got a gripe with AeroPress. Where's the big, giant AeroPress, like a 1 liter French press, where when I'm camping, I can just smash it out? He mentioned before the pod that there is one. Is there a giant AeroPress? Liam, we've got producer Liam looking this up.
Checking.
I feel like that would be hard to, with the whole vacuum seal and the push down.
Oh, you're getting the car jack out.
You just chung, 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 chung. Dad over here would 100% do that.
There's an XL,
How much does an XL hold?
590 mils.
Oh, that's pretty big.
That's decent.
Pretty solid. And then
Because if you,
XL.
it's like a 2-3 cup kind of thing. If you're looking at 200 to 250 to being a normal cup, 600 mils,
That's huge.
yeah,
3-in-1, yeah. That's what they're claiming.
the 3-in-1.
God, there's so many fun little Temu accessories that go with them too.
Oh, we had the
There's the
Temu reach out the
2-paw.
other day. I didn't tell you that.
No.
Yeah, got the Temu reach out wanting us to.
Did they
cork
also
some
have
of the
pixel
goods.
mugs?
I know. Yeah, if you got pixel mugs, we're in. Give Rowan the pixel mug.
True.
Do I need to maybe I need to reach out to these guys and just be like, look, I'm not doing a video, but send me a bunch and let me just give them out to listeners of the pod so we can get
We'll put them in the
listeners.
background. We'll put
Pixel
them in-
mug. All right, I'm writing this down. Pixel mug.
And while we're talking about generous gifts, we got some spirits from 1883 in France this morning. And how good was that unboxing experience? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That was unreal. Can't
Why
wait
did
to
we
try
get
some of
that?
those.
Just
They reached out to the podcast and were like, hey, this and this and this. And I was like, look, I don't know what we can do, but send us out some so at least we can try it.
okay. Well, once we tried it, maybe this can go a bit further. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
That was a great unboxing experience.
I sent it to one of our product designers actually, and he was quite impressed as well. So you know if you're hitting those guys, you're doing the right
Yeah.
job.
Now, Tim touched on location, a bit of a running theme of chatting about the different country cities. I thought it was good. He went a different route where he spoke about, a lot of the time people are saying Japan and Seoul or South Korea. He went to Oslo and to Copenhagen, Denmark as two of his favorites.
The Nordic states, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know as much about Oslo, but I know that Tim Wendelboe is incredible.
Yep.
Denmark. I didn't know that Noma had started a coffee operation. Did you know that?
No idea at all, actually. I thought Noma were wrapping things up.
Yeah.
I thought it was the exact opposite.
To be honest, I think Noma wraps things up and then they just go Noma part 2. They're like, we had to wrap it up because that was a different ideology.
That was the end of that chapter.
Yeah, that chapter is over and now we're moving into a different, I'm Rene Redzepi and
I need to go back into my chrysalis.
I got this bee to eat this flower and then excrete into the ocean and I made these pearl droplets.
I think
I don't know what language or accent I'm doing.
Yeah,
I think a big part of Tim that you can really appreciate is the 65 countries, and like World AeroPress Championships taking place all over the world, competitors from all over the world, and then working in 3 continents in coffee at a high level.
Yeah.
Like you're pretty qualified to make some claims there. So you wouldn't take anything he said lightly at all, except for he does love a light roast.
Yeah, he loves the light roast. Then the coffee that he gave us was great, exactly what it said on there. It kind of took me to those like Market Lane filters on that like lighter side where it's like super clean. It's that washed coffee, like beautiful florals coming through, that light acidity.
And he echoed his preferences that he quite likes Market Lane. He loves the experience and he loves the washed coffees.
Yeah, and you can tell it's got that, that same kind of vibe and feel. So if you want to give that, if that's your style, give Fieldwork a go there. But I felt like there was a few times, and maybe once if we get him on the show a few times, it'll fall away, that veil. There was a few times where I saw him self-censoring himself.
Yeah, he's very self-aware.
He was like, don't say that. And I was just like, say it. You could tell, like when he was talking about Melbourne and I was like, is Melbourne in that top 5 list? You could tell he was like, no, but he's like, I can't say that. He was like, I live here. But I feel like the answer was no.
Yeah. And look, it's that day of reckoning. It's that hard chat that he's talking about. And at some point you have to have that moment and you just go, look, we aren't what we claim to be. Yeah, we're a great milk coffee nation. That's probably about it now.
Agreed. I don't think there's that next step of innovation going there. There's people doing amazing stuff. That's not to shout it
They're
down,
the outliers though. They're exceptions to the rule. They're not the basis, which we're kind of generalizing with those best coffee cities, best coffee countries.
I resonated with him chatting, like making the comparison between kind of the judgmental nature of the Melbourne barista and the LA scene or just American coffee in general. And he's like done so much time there and that LA made his top 5, top 3 list even of like best coffee. And it's like, there's so many baristas that would be like, oh, America, they don't know what they're doing. It's like.
America gets hammered like in a lot of ways where it's like they're kind of judged on their lowest common denominator.
Correct.
But it's exactly the same as Australia. We have a section or group of people in Australia that is, there's places you're going to go where there's not great coffee here. And if you were judging Australian coffee by, getting it out in the middle of nowhere, then maybe you'd have a similar story. But America's the same where it's like, people are probably going to get annoyed at me now for saying this. Rural places also have great coffee, but you can kind of know that the main cities are where you're going to get it. And America is the same. If you're going to Chicago, you're going to New York, you're going to Portland, you're going to LA, San Francisco, like Austin, all these places are going to have incredible coffee.
Yeah,
and like
LA's a big international city, and it's on like a giant scale as well. So it makes sense when you've got that level of talent, that level of transitory people, and also the melting of all those cultures. Also, the other thing about America that probably gets misunderstood or misrepresented is how close it is to South and Central America. So their accessibility to all these amazing coffees. For us to go to Central America or South America is a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
But for them, it's just like it's a short trip straight down the latitude,
I will say there's a difference in America. Obviously, Australia had espresso is our go-to drink. If you go into a cafe, espresso is what you're ordering. And that's because of the huge immigration of Italians early on, where that just became the kind of the drink of choice. Whereas in the States, drip coffee is the drink of choice. Like if you were to walk into Australia and say, I want a coffee, you'd get served espresso. If you walked into America and said, I want a coffee, you'd get a drip coffee.
And that's the German influence, is that right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's the German influence that got it into the States.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? Like to figure out how you backtrack it and you can go back and just be like, oh, that's the chronology of that.
Yeah. And so I would say that I feel like America has been catching up with the espresso side of things and the flow, but it's, they've been doing drip for longer and doing it well, but now they're, catching up and the espresso over there is great.
Horses for courses aside, you had one or the other for the rest of your life. Is it espresso or drip for you? Espresso or filter?
Ooh.
For me, I reckon I'd go filter. I'm a filter guy. Light and delicious.
Espresso for me.
The drip.
I can only say espresso because it's just what I drink on the regular. So if that's what I'm choosing to drink every day, then how could I not say that's what I'm going to pick?
Nothing hits harder than a quality espresso. When you hit that quality espresso and all the things line up and it sings and you ping it and you're just like.
But I would say for me, the work, like going to work, hitting that espresso, going like bang, you have it quick, you're off to work. That all makes sense to me. For me, a long, like lazy long weekend down at the beach, I'm like, doing a pour over and having like big pot of like beautiful coffee out with the sun, like that's a different vibe.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm just like, I'm sitting there with my computer. I know I've got this like little insulated pot of like goodness. I can just keep topping that up and have
But do you, in this like made up scenario, do you think like if you could only drink one for the rest of your life, that means that you get to just chill and relax for the rest of your life? You still have to work, man.
Dude, I'm talking about working with this pot next to me. That's what we're talking about. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I'm on that weekend away doing all that stuff that you're talking about, I'm having a glass of wine. I'm going to be honest.
At 8 a.m.?
Negronis it is.
Yeah, that's probably a French cider.
Mimosa.
Mimosa. Yeah.
Now, I've got an idea that I kind of brought up on the pod.
The Pixel mug?
The Pixel mug. But back to the Pixel mug. No, I wish I could tell this idea through Pixel mugs right now. No. Okay. World AeroPress Championship. Accessible. Doing it. I could enter it.
No.
But
no,
what about...
Why?
Exactly. Why? Exactly. Liam. Let's get Liam. So let's find out for the next pod. We need to know when it is, when the next one we can enter. Hopefully there's a bit of leeway because what my idea is that every week during coffee break, before coffee break, he has to prepare us a different AeroPress recipe and we have to drink it live on the show.
This is amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm so down. I am so down. I'm just looking it up.
So do we use the same coffee? Like how do we preface this? Do you use the same coffee? Like what kind of coffee we're going to pick? Does it need to change because you don't know what coffee you're getting, do you? Let's find out the rules.
Yeah, I think maybe we do a bit of research and we look at like the last 5 champion winners and we use their recipes first to give Liam some understanding.
Oh, that's so let's do that. Yeah. On each show, we'll highlight the past winners and we'll get Liam to recreate what they made.
Oh, that's fun.
And then we can write down like what the experience was. Because it was super interesting that he was talking about the super high doses are really just a way to game the system. It's
100%.
knowing the judges, knowing they're tasting the same coffee like thousands of times throughout a day. And they're like, let's just make it taste slightly more interesting or different or more acidity or whatever. And that's going to make it stand out.
So he said a hotter brew. He preferred that. That was his preference. I picked up on that because he was saying, when you add water at the end, you could add hot water again, which makes it more pleasurable in your mouth.
No, I think he was saying, was that what he was saying?
Yeah,
I took it like he was saying they add warm water so it's at a lower temperature, which is going to highlight the flavors more.
Yeah, okay.
Whereas people who brew it all in one, it's too hot.
Yeah, okay. Because I took it the other way where it was like it sits on the bench for too long and then you add hot water to bring it back to life.
For those who listen to the podcast, please comment
hot or
down
warm
below which one you took it as, right? Because I'm not listening back.
I'll look at the transcription.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sonam's actually the competitive guy who's like, the other day someone didn't lock the back door and Sonam's like diving into their security cam footage to try to figure out who it was.
Wasn't me. No chance.
Any info there? Are you looking...
Well, I actually went to the World AeroPress Championship.com and Australia isn't on that list. Like it's only New Zealand. And
well, that doesn't make sense. It's based out of Melbourne, Australia.
Well, that's where I'm looking at the championship and I'm looking at thing, but I'll find it.
We'll look into it a bit later and figure all that out. But I love that. So we'll get the last 5 winners. We'll get Liam to brew it. We'll help coach him, judge him. And if we're going to take him to the top, if we can get Liam to win the World AeroPress Championship, that'll be the best day of my life.
Should we add some spice if he wins it?
Oh.
AeroPress tats?
For you guys.
All 3 of us.
Are you getting yours on your dome, just like right in the middle of the forehead?
No, we got to do it something cheesy like on the ankle.
Is there something funny where we could put the AeroPress on one finger and then have another finger with the plunger and you
That's
plunge
good.
down.
That's really good.
With your two fingers.
That is good.
I mean, we could do it even weirder and do the toes.
We have to
All
plunge
three
together.
together? Yeah.
Plunge
Interlocking toes.
Duck toes.
Look, I think everybody just doesn't.
The
Yeah.
dark of the bed.
No one wants us to win now.
Quick question. Thoughts on natural coffees, guys? Where do you guys sit on? He obviously had a very strong, he was kind of covering himself by being like, but it's what you like, do what you want. And if you're passionate about it, that's great. But he was like, it felt like it's like naturals are just wrong.
Yeah, in a utopian world where everyone's got access to free running water and it's not, the runoff's being treated properly, then yeah, I can understand where he's coming from. But a lot of parts of the world don't have water. So it's just, what it has to be. They're dried coffees because that's just the only available method.
But
in terms of taste and flavor for him, like I get where he's coming from. It does mask a lot of what is inherent in the bean and the terroir. So, but people would also say that the lack of water available is also a characteristic of the terroir because it's, the climactic condition there.
But I would say that throughout history, a lot of the things that we love and cherish now and look at as high end was made because of mistakes or made out of necessity because like there's like a fortified wine or whatever that port, right? So basically people were trying to get wine from France, but when they were at war, they had to go around and get wine from Portugal, but then the wine would go spoil because it was so far back on the boat. And so to make it not spoil, they started adding straight spirits into it and putting it in barrels to bring it back. And then that's how it was now it's just like
And
pleasurable
fortified,
experience in this expensive thing. But it was done out of necessity, not based out of like an actual flavor preference.
What was the funky, the exact same story but with the coffee and you?
Monsoon Malabar, yeah.
Monsoon Malabar.
Although that sounds like it went the other way, where it's like probably just a bunch of coffee wankers telling themselves something tasted good. Or did it taste good?
No, it didn't taste good at all. But it was more just, it was like a relatively low grade affordable coffee that had enough, external factors to make it interesting.
Yeah.
And as disdain was upheld.
Yeah.
I think there's a place for it. I think when we had Scott Rao on, it's like is someone doing it where it's like actually done really nicely, where it's not just takes over. It's not done with a inexpensive coffee that, highlights like fake flavors and goes down that way. It's like balanced, it's done with taste.
And also people we need to have these parts of the industry because they need to be developed to get better and to understand it more. Like I remember when natural wines were all the craze, which is such a stupid thing at the start point anyway, because there's actually no definition in, the wine guidelines of what a natural wine means. Like how low intervention, what intervention, like where is it? So people were just throwing natural wines on stuff that just tasted like a hay bale and it was terrible. And I like natural wines that are well made, but it was such a weird time. But in the when did natural wines start really popping up? Maybe like 10 years ago?
Yeah, easily 10 years ago.
Let's say easily 10, 15. Yeah. But in those 10, 15 years, they've gotten so much better, so much more refined. Like there's understanding of different styles and ways. And it's, the same with whether it's co-fermenting, naturals, different fermentate, carbonic maceration or whatever. We need to experiment with it to really nail it down and create something special.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the other thing that Tim kind of said quite well about the whole natural thing and when he was covering himself was more about the fact that he's like, it is up to you, It's up to you. Your taste is subjective. At the end of the day, it's up to you. The coffee you like is the coffee you like. Congrats. Yep. Yeah. And, that was then echoed in his service methodology now at work or at field work where he's like, we don't alienate people with our customer service. We try and bring it down to the lowest common denominator. So he's self-aware of it, which is quite good. I think when you talked about him censoring himself, he could have gone a bit harder.
He could have gone harder. And we'll get him back in. We'll let him go harder. We'll test the waters as we see here. But I think that brings us to the end of another coffee break. We've had some good touch points there. I like this World AeroPress Championship for Liam. It was great having Tim on the show. I really enjoyed that. Thank you again to our sponsors at Eco Barista. They make eco coffee wares, whether you need bags, cups, whatever, they got you sorted, and you get 15% off your first purchase when you visit their website.
And the massages. Who could forget the massages?
The massages. And, of course, our good friends at Apex Labs. They make these amazing minerals that you can just drop into your coffee, whether it's filter, whether it's espresso. It's not going to change the flavor of your coffee. It's going to enhance the natural flavors that are already in there. You can get ones like jam, tonic, and as well, you can get lilac. So they're all going to do different things. Some are going to add more body. Some are going to add more brightness and acidity. And some are going to bring out those floral notes. So get some of those, play around with them, test out your coffee skills. And thank you again for being a supporter of the It's Just Coffee podcast. And Sonam, thank you for joining me today. It was great chatting.
Thanks for having me. It was an absolute pleasure to listen to Tim and also be in the conversation with him. I think it was one of those ones where I think everybody forgets what's available in Melbourne, like in terms of resources. That was an absolute pleasure for me.
Yeah, I was sitting back feeling the same thing. It was like we were watching the time go up a little bit, and I was like, let it run. This is like such a wealth of knowledge, everything.
And Liam, this will be the last day that you were no longer a future AeroPress Championship winner. I don't know if that made sense, but we had it there.
Does that mean I get to use the that exclusive medal?
No, he said on the pod. He said it's only the base model.
He did. Yeah, true.
No training. You got to use the right apparatus.
Yeah.
All right, that
was amazing though. That glass and metal situation.
Yeah, it looked baller.
Yeah, felt good in the hand.
Yeah. All right, thank you for joining us on Coffee Break. Sonam, you're beautiful and I love you.
Thanks. I did get tan all weekend, so thanks for noticing.
Yeah. He's glowing.
I didn't.
Yeah, we noticed. I love you, Liam.
I'm making AeroPress.